Welcome to Alvarez TV, everybody.
Hello.
In the studio today,
Hey
Dee.
Chris, hey Tim, how you doing?
All right, all right.
Yeah.
They
It's
are
pretty good.
expensive.
It's pretty good. But we're here today. We're going to talk about some studio stuff, adding on from the things that we spoke about before to do with microphones and recording.
So we went through a bunch of mics, discussed that. Tim went to the studio, and then we talked about recording, best results, EQ, compression, because they're not the easiest things to get a great sound of.
I know, it's like all of these things, the concepts are fairly simple.
Yeah.
But it's just this idea of, you've got to put some time in to try and get some results, right? It's like anything really,
But we talked about positioning, different mics, different positions, attack, finger style, moving the mic around for how you play guitar, which we proved, really makes quite a difference.
It's true.
So now we're going to talk about
what happens in post.
The final stage.
Recording.
Because the thing is, all the little variables, the microphones themselves are not perfect, They pick up certain things, What we're trying to do with compression, right, is we talk about dynamic range, which is basically the loudest parts of the signal, and then the quietest parts of the signal. And we're trying to sort of bring those together so that we can make a more of a cohesive sound.
But it's sort of topping and tailing the frequencies, I thought. You are.
Well, there's two sort of looks.
So you could get them all louder or all more equal.
Well, so the idea is that the loudest sounds don't become overpowering, and that the quietest sounds don't get lost. So there's two ways of kind of look at compression. There's compression when what we do is we're doing solo guitar most of the time, okay? And we're thinking about bringing out the tone of the instrument, yeah? So some of the quieter things that you don't necessarily hear as much, the microphones are picking those up. We can kind of enhance that a little bit by making the sound a little bit more zingy.
Yeah. Zing!
Or a little, just bringing the resonance out and stuff like that, When you're talking about a mix, you're talking about trying to hear stuff. It's like, oh, I'm playing a guitar part and some of it's too quiet, so I'm trying to bring it up.
So something like a hardwood top, say mahogany top on a guitar, it's got less, dynamic frequency, less spread, it's got less overtones.
Yeah.
People will say it's easier for recording, but some people might not like it. There's probably arguably less colour. Do you hear that when you record our guitars, or using compression can bring? Because what we want is we want it to sound like we hear it acoustically. We want to represent exactly how the guitar is sounding acoustically.
It is.
Because there's lots of going on, because you've got all that sound hole stuff inside the instrument, which comes out at different times.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a continuous tone, isn't it? So it's coming out at different points and different levels.
Yeah.
So is that what you're trying to?
Well, and compression can either enhance that or completely ruin it, the sound. If you set it in correctly.
Yeah.
Or if you go too much and you compress too much. So there's certain. I mean, I think it's probably worth just having a bit of a chat about what the different controls of a compressor are and what they do in a general kind of elementary kind of way, right? So I talked a bit before about the idea of dynamic range, the loudest and the quietest points. So a compressor, basically, you set it to a threshold and you say, well, my loudest point is here and my sort of quietest point is here. I'm going to pick a point where I want to control this loudest stuff, okay? So say, for example, I don't know, let's just say, for argument's sake, you've recorded something and it peaks at -6, okay? dB, okay? So 0 being like, beyond that would be kind of distortion, right?
Okay.
So -6 would be like kind of a healthy kind of level, say, for example. But you want to control everything that's in that loudest part. So we'll set the compressor to -10, and then we'll say everything over that threshold is being compressed, but anything under that threshold is not being compressed.
Got it.
So the threshold is literally only concerning itself with what's happening. The compressor's only compressing the bit over
I
the
thought
top.
it was just a whole blanket thing.
That's
compressor.
cool.
So it's only compressing what you...
So a lot of what you're hearing, a big percentage of it isn't compressed. There's only certain frequencies?
No, it's
noise,
it's volume.
volumes?
It's volume. It's like You can't. Yes, you can. You can attack frequencies with you can sidechain, and you can. And some of the compressors that we use have that ability to sort of only look at certain frequencies.
Let's say you're strumming open E and it's got all that tone coming out to a mic.
So what's the first thing you hear?
Low end.
Yeah. So the low end is opening up the compressor. So that's attacking it. And that leads you to the next interesting part of the compressor, the other control. So once you've hit the threshold, you then decide how much you want to compress it by a ratio. So let's say, for example, standard starting point is 3 to 1. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that when you hit a threshold, you're only going to compress the bit of the signal above that threshold. Yeah. So let's say, for example, we'll do 3 to 1. Every 3 decibels, the signal goes over that threshold. The compressor at 3 to 1 is only going to let 1 decibel.
Oh, right.
So it's turning it down by 2 dB because it's only letting 1 dB through. Okay, so it's physically turning it down.
Okay.
Yeah?
I've always wondered what that was. That's interesting.
So the attack deals with how fast the compressor deals with the transient. In the case of a pick, for example. So if you have the compressor working too quickly, it's going to grab that note too quickly. And if it does that, it'll soften the sound of the pick. Yeah? So you need to have the compressor with a slow attack. Slow attack means more transients. Fast attack means less. It kind of sounds weird. You think it's the other way around. So you need to set the attack slowly, so you will be able to hear the pick.
It's very complicated, isn't it?
It's kind of
So
yeah, I know. It's
when
probably a bit simple in my head.
So when you're recording acoustic guitars generally, are you sort of setting the compression in a similar way, or it all depends what's being played, who's playing it, pick, finger style?
So I never print compression on the way in. I monitor using compression.
Right.
I'll set the compressor to where I think it kind of will be.
Right.
And then I'll adjust it in post
Later.
accordingly.
That's cool. Why?
Because I'm a scaredy cat, probably.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that
Did you know that?
I'm sure people can comment about that. There'll be people who just always go, right, this is what I do on the way in, and I get a great sound. But I tend to want to be a bit more belt and braces, and I have, because I'm in the box. I mean, I do have hardware compressors and EQs and stuff that I use, but I tend to use those in post as well. So I'll set the sound that I kind of want, and then afterwards I go, right, I'm going to commit once so I never really record anything.
Well, yeah.
With any extreme EQ or any extreme compression or anything, because then you can't make any more decisions, right?
It's like
once
a needless risk.
You've committed yourself.
Yeah.
And anything you want to do in post, you can't because your hands are tied.
But that generally wasn't the way back in the day.
Right.
Where people just had the balls to do it there and then. I mean, people still do that. Of course, everyone still does it. I mean, sometimes I'll dial a sound. This is the sound that I want, and I'll just commit to it.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for taking like that needless risk of compressing or EQing as it goes?
I think it's just a taste. I just think when people record stuff, if you hear something that you really love, you think that this is the natural sound of the instrument, the way that I'm hearing it from my ear, and this is perfect. And it's not going to get. I don't need to adjust it later on. I'm in the perfect environment. I'm in a great room. It all sounds great. The strings sound great. The guitar's great. The resonance. I'm capturing the sound that I want. Then fine. But I think sometimes you just want to be able to.
More control.
That's the thing. When you're recording something,
But actually, compression, because there's that much going on at the sound hole anywhere, or the foot or 2 foot between the guitar and the mic. There's a lot of complicated stuff like frequency going on, isn't there?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of all acoustic instruments, really. I mean, drums. I mean, hell, compression. When I've heard you add stuff, can get it closer to the natural sound of the guitar.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Because microphones don't react in the same way that your ears.
Good answer.
I think we said something about this the last time we were talking about throwing a penny or a cent or something in the corner of a room, and we can hear it.
Yeah.
And we can sort of zone in on it.
Yeah.
But in order for a microphone to hear that, it would pick up the air conditioning
exactly,
in the corner. It would pick up someone opening a door in the next room or something.
It's not connected to a brain.
Yeah.
filtering stuff
we can
out.
filter
And,
that out. So we're zoning in on other stuff.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
So the microphone, I think the thing about microphones and compression and EQ, we haven't talked about EQ, but all of those things are all about trying to even the sound out so you can get it back to being as natural as the thing that you're hearing and the thing that you're experiencing, you know?
Yeah.
But there's two different types of compression, right? You've got corrective compression, which is, you know, I've played this too loud and this bit's too quiet and I want to try and even it up or something like that, or I can't hear it in the mix, or there's too much attack from a pick and I want to try and tame it, or the opposite. And then there's kind of creative, where I want this to sound like, I want to really bring out the box, I want to really bring out the strings, I want to really bring out the pick, and that's a different type of thing. Again, there's kind of always two ways to sort of deal with it, you know?
Country electric guitar is very compressed, isn't it? Like electric guitar is a very sound of creative compression.
Yeah, because it tends to be like the volume tends to be there.
Yeah, it's just
it's not as dynamic.
Yeah.
Plus you might want to play around with, in a recording, or if you do the song or whatever, you might want to make it a bit different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why you want to, you know, for anything from just adjusting the tone because it makes you feel a certain way, to wanting to hear it within the mix, or not hear parts of it, you know.
Just filling space in the background.
But acoustics,
so you can use it for effects, for different styles of sounds, or you can use it to try and capture the natural sound of the instrument.
Yeah.
Got it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So you're going to show us something then?
Well, Tim and I recorded something a little
earlier.
Here's
choosing our headphones on.
Choosing guitars.
Here's what we prepared earlier, like Blue Peter, our program.
This was, I mean, what I was going to show you very, very simply, right? This is the strumming, and this is the picking. Two different types of, you know, of playing, really. So obviously, this is, you can see this is dynamic, right?
Yeah.
We've got quieter bits and louder bits. There's the peaks, kind of troughs and peaks and troughs, yeah? Okay? So you can see where this stuff's attacking. And if we listen to this uncompressed, it sounds like this. It's a very simple recording, right? So we've only got one mic. We've got a Browner mic in front of him. You know, it was a quick thing. We're not trying to get any kind of space, or the room's very dead. We're just hearing the guitar by itself. So I guess the thing is,
then are you going to add a compression to that now so we can hear it straight away?
So what I thought I'd do is, this is just Logic's basic compressor, okay?
Right.
So let's look at when the compressor starts to work. This is the threshold that I was talking about. Okay, so it works on 3 to 4 different levels, right? So we've got the threshold where it's going to start to work. Yeah. We've got the ratio, how much it's going to compress.
Okay.
We've got the attack, how fast or how slow. And remember, the slower speed means that it's going to let that transient through, and then the release, basically how long it stays compressed for. Okay, so if you have a very, very long release, it'll hit the compression and it'll kind of stay there.
Then would it come back out of it?
That's not very natural. It's not a very natural sound, is it? You're sort of pulling the focus to the quieter sounds back, making them come up. You know, sounds great sometimes when you got drums and you make it. You know, it kind of works, but you got to. It does work. You got to be sort of careful.
What is the transient? Just to explain.
Well, the transient is the hit, is the initial hit.
Okay.
The pick, or a snare, or something, or a smack of a hand. It's that first initial sound. You know, and then after that you hear the sound starts to decay, doesn't it? You know, or the strings ringing and stuff like that. So let's hear this acoustic guitar, and let's. I'm just going to put the attack fairly central, the release central, no makeup gain. I'll leave the ratio there, okay? 3:1. And watch. So nothing's happening. And the important thing here is to watch the gain.
Meter.
This meter is a gain reduction meter, GR, okay? So what it's doing is it's showing you how much the compressor is pulling down once it starts to work, yeah? So I'll start, I'm starting it here, so there's nothing happening. It's at 0 dB. When you watch the guitar here, for example, here, you can see, let's have a little look. And when we're watching it play, it's peaking at what's that? -7, -8. So that's as loud as it gets, yeah? Okay? So obviously our threshold is set at 0 dB. It's getting nowhere near that. So it's only going to start to work when we get closer to this bit here, and you can see that from the gain reduction meter, okay? So watch.
The compressor's not turned on.
Oh, compressor's not turned on. Thanks, Tim.
Remember to turn it on.
Switch it on. Okay, well.
There it goes.
Okay. Hear what's happening?
This sounds totally.
It's choking the sound. It's choking the sound completely, right? It's probably not a bad idea to have it set like this so you can really hear what's happening. Okay. So the ratio is at 1 there. Nothing's happening at all. Okay. So even though the threshold's set, it's not pulling it down. It's not doing anything. Yeah. You got it? So the meter's showing us that we're getting around about, what's that? About 7 dB of gain reduction. So we'd have to make that up here. So I'm turning the compressor on and off.
Got it?
Yeah. So it's only really, the truth is, you have to set the makeup gain so it matches.
Right.
Because you can't really hear what's happening. The compressions, you'll just hear a massive volume drop or a massissive volume boost. You can't really hear what's going on as much.
So if you're losing 7 dB, you just set the makeup to 7.
You add it back in again. That's the idea. So it's pulling it down and you're pushing it back up again. And then that's the compressor set, basically.
So the volume's coming back,
but
the peaks.
Yeah,
so and
then you're messing with the attack.
Yeah.
To find out how much you want to. So let's do a really extreme. Hear that? It's fairly subtle. But when the attack's all the way across here, 200 milliseconds, yeah? So it's taking 200 milliseconds for the compressor to start to work.
Right.
You're hitting all of the transients are being hit. But when you pull it the other way around, when the compressor starts to work straight away, you can hear that it's starting to choke. Now, if I pull the threshold the other way, you can really start to hear this, right? So watch. So I'm going to pull the attack all the other way. And now I'm going to move the threshold back so it starts to work at a lower volume. And it's softening it, right? Now I've got 10 dB of gain reduction, so I'll move it up.
Move back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
You hear what it's doing?
Yeah.
It's softening. You're losing all the attack. Yeah.
But it's like useful in places. It sounds quite nice, but.
So can we just, at that setting, can we just go back and
listen
do the switch on and switch off again?
Yeah. Off. And back on again. Off.
That's pretty subtle though, right?
It's pretty subtle.
I prefer the compressed sound.
Do you like a compressed like that?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
I like that sound.
But that's not what I'm going for when I record Alvarez
Yeah.
guitars. I do not do that. I don't want anyone to hear the compression. What I want people to hear is the natural resonance of the guitar.
Yeah.
If you can hear it and it's compressed, then you've gone too far for me. But when it's in a recording, when it's in a in the middle of a mix, definitely you want to tame it. You want to make sure that it's sitting in the mix or it's coming out where you need it to come out.
In the right way.
Yeah. It's
Very
a very
cool.
deep subject, compression, right?
Yeah.
It's really deep. But I mean, no offense to Logic, you know, I'm a big Logic lover. I've been teaching and working with Logic for a long, long time, but I don't use this particular compressor at all. What I do is I use an emulation of an LA2A optical compressor. And it's just incredibly musical. You know, I've got the hardware version, but this is the software version. But what's great about this is and I would recommend everybody to try to sort of use an LA2. Well, I know I've got you to use it.
I bought it because the plug-in because you said before I moved my studio here, you said get this one. And I like the sound I have here. So,
but what's the main reason for using it though for you?
If I'm honest, it's because you said to use it.
Right.
Like, I just bought the plug-in. I just bought the plugins that you said to.
But it's a dongle though, right?
But
I mean, it's really easy. It's really easy to use.
Oh yes, very easy.
You've only got two controls. Well, there's a third control actually, but an emphasis. But that's to do with side chaining. But there's only two controls. You've got peak reduction, which is basically your threshold, and you've got makeup gain. Makeup gain, peak reduction.
Yeah.
So all it's doing is it's got
reducing it, clipping it, and handing it back.
It's got a set. Attack time and a set release time. That's not 100% true. I'm sure somebody will try and correct me on that. What you put into it, it can change, but that's for another time.
So basically, we're saying that it's could be a creative tool. It's a good functional tool for controlling the peaks of volume.
Yeah.
It's also good in some way to bring out the natural sound. Of the instrument, because the microphone may not be hearing it like we hear it, which is brilliant.
That's right.
And then in the simplest form, which is the last plug-in you showed us, that's the simplest form. So basically, you could be topping and tailing frequencies, telling it what to do, but it will only take those peaks and troughs, or peaks mainly, and everything else is natural. So and you can set that within but how do you just listen to it and you think, well, that sounds like the guitar, or if you want to be more creative, you just start playing around.
It depends what you're going for. If you, it was interesting that you like that sort of more choked sound, right? I think that's quite an interesting sort of.
But I think that was because I was just saying. I think it's because you asked me to play in a way I wouldn't normally. Like put dynamics in places where they don't necessarily fit. That's whereas I tried to go for the uniform
purposes
thing.
of what we were doing, I sort of said to Tim, let's just be a bit more dynamic and a bit, you know,
in play, just to show the compressor.
Just so in Tim's playing is normally a bit more consistent than that. I don't have to do that.
Go on. So compression in a nutshell.
Compression in a nutshell is the idea that you know, dynamic range can be controlled over volume. You know, and we use it in order to bring out. We have to say that the idea of makeup gain, although it's bringing everything up to where it was before, it's also bringing up the quieter sounds.
Right.
So sometimes, and we can hear this in the resonance of the wood and stuff that we want to kind of listen to. Our ears are picking it up. Maybe the microphones are not getting it in the same kind of way. We can use compression in order to kind of just even everything out, so that sound becomes more. The idea of compression is that the higher sounds and the lower sounds
so
kind of get a bit closer together, so we can get the That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Hope you learned. We did.
I sure did.
If you have any questions, we have this set up so we could do more in-depth stuff. We'll probably do EQ one day.
And
talk about that. But that's brilliant, mate. Thank you.
Nice one, mate.
Yeah,
good crack.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Enjoy your tour.
And Tim's going on tour. And hopefully we'll see him on tour. We'll tune in when he's
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Great.
That'd be cool. Nice one.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.